Kuji's been seen in many movies, games, and anime, including Naruto, to perform a specific jutsu. But did you know that the ninja and samurai actually used the Kuji? Now, these hand seals here are called Kuji, and they are not to perform any specific jutsu, but to perform a powerful esoteric spell for protection and to help with mental concentration.
And so there's a symbol that we form. It refers to a sword blade. You can imagine a two-edged sword blade held up, and then a rope lariat.
Form the grid. Let's start with the sword hand. Okay, we've got sword and sheath. We take it out and we form the grid like this. Rin, Pyo, To, Sha, Kai, Jin, Retsu, Zai, Zen.
You're about to see a video on Kuji, the origins and the secrets withheld in. My name is Antony Cummins and I am the author of Zen and the Samurai Sword, Japanese warrior techniques for agility, clarity and calm. Get yourself a copy today, links below. Now, you might think the ninja invented Kuji, the power spells, the 9 power spells, but they did not. They were nowhere near the originators. In fact, they are probably some of the last people to use it in the old world, the historical world. So where did Kuji actually come from? Is it Buddhist or is it Taoist? Now today it's predominantly used in Buddhism, so you'd imagine that it was the Buddha who brought it about, or at least some of his early disciples. The problem is, and correct me if I'm wrong, there seems to be no evidence of Kuji before China. So there seems to be no evidence of Kuji in ancient India, but there are evidence of mudras. So the mudra is a little bit of an issue here. So these are hand gestures used normally in Buddhism, but there are Taoist versions and I think there are Hindu versions as well. So basically Kuji, used in Japan, uses mudras, which are hand positions, mantras, which are sayings, and also there's Kuji Kiri, which are basically cuts, specific cuts. How did this all come to being? How did it all come together? That's one of the most difficult things to understand. Did it come all the way down from Buddhism? Did the Buddha himself do these? Or did, as in the 9 words of power, what does history tell us about it? So while we know that mudras did exist, possibly in Hindu times through to Chinese Taoist times and then on to Buddhist times, what do we know historically about Kuji itself? Or Kuji Kiri, which means Kuji cuts, and Kuji in, or the 9 spell words of power. So let's start with my friend Lynn Hart.
Okay, so recently I got interested in Kuji, and I saw Antony commenting on Kawakami's video about the words in Kuji changing. So I think I could go into the kanji part of it. So the Japanese one, we know it's Rinpyo to Sha Kai Jin Retsu Zai Zen. So notice this is Zai Zen. Remember this character. So in the Chinese one, this would be more so Rinpyo to Sha mostly the same, but Zen, it was here and moved up 1 character, and Zai got changed into a different word. The meaning is, it actually changes a bit, but it doesn't change too much. So I think the original part, where Kuji came from, I haven't looked at too much, but I believe it's from this book.
Now, most people attribute the beginning of Kuji to this document. It's a 4th century text and it describes various spells and rituals that you have to be done, or has to be done, for medicine, travel, anything you like really in ancient China. This is the first example ever of Kuji.
And here we go. When you enter a mountain, you should know this secret spell. This means 6 armor. Not exactly sure it's called that, but this is called 6 armor secret spell. And the spell goes, 临兵斗者皆阵列前行. So here you go. This is the Kuji. And in Japanese, this would be Zai Zen, but not, in Chinese it would be 在前. And this here it says 前行. So I'll talk about that later. And here, so afterwards, so these 9 words.
So there you go, guys. The first basic one that we can be seen is Kuji. It's right on the screen there. You can see the little soldier with his hand up. So basically, just there in the middle of the screen is the first time Kuji. But notice it comes in 4 and 5. So a section of 4 and a section of 5. And then just after it, on the right-hand side of the screen there, is the word for 9 and characters. The 9 characters, which in Japanese is Kuji. Okay, so basically Kuji in Japanese. So let's have a look at how these are written, and let's follow Linhart again and see what he's got to say about how they are written down and the different versions.
So let's talk about the kanji. This is Ling. Oh, that should make it a bit closer. This is Bing, and this is Do. Zhe. And there's actually a pause here. So originally we all thought it's just one sentence, but there's actually a slight pause in the sentence here. This is 接. This is 正列前行. So in Japanese, this would be 在前. So let me talk about the meaning. So Ling Bing, Ding Ling, this means descend. So basically, no, that means descend, and this word means soldier. So together, this means when the enemy descends upon you. Well, descend, yeah, the feeling would be like descend upon, but really it's just when you face off against, like when you face a soldier, or you know, when you meet the enemy forces, basically. And do, this means fight. 这, you know this from Shinobi no Mono. This means person. So this is the mono from Shinobi no Mono. And the second part means 接 means all. Okay, stop it from moving. 阵列, this means in an array, or like in formation. Basically information. And 前行 means walk forward. And 在前, 在前, this would mean stand before me. So that would more like just stand in stationary before you, while here in this version, this would mean walk forward. So in totality, this would mean those who would face the opposing forces and fight for me, you know, for me, in quotes. So those who would face the opposing soldiers, opposing forces, and fight for me, all walk in formation, walk forward in formation, basically. So it would be more like here, you're here, you face off a demon or something, with probably multiple legs. This Kuji spell means to summon your soldiers, walk forward, crush your foe. That's it. Which is slightly different from the Japanese, and even in Japanese there are actually variations of this word will likely get swapped out sometimes, and these two get changed sometimes. I think mostly in Japan it's mostly this one. Oh, and this one, this kanji also gets swapped out sometimes to this one. And in Chinese, this word will mean to explode. and that is very different from being in array or in a formation. So there are plenty of variations to it. I have not collected it all, but if you see any new ones, please tell me.
Oh, to bring that down, basically, it's got a 9-word spell, but trying to get it into 9 words, you'd have to swap them around for English grammar. But come, soldiers, fight people one and all. Stand, formation, march forward is the basic spell. So the idea is that you stand, we're in a dangerous situation. In this case, it's going to dark mountains with spirits. You would say, come, soldiers, fight people for me all. Stand in formation and march forward, or stand in formation and protect me, depending on, we've got the 2 different ending versions there. So either stand fast and hold me, but the question, or march forward, which is what Lynn Hart was just saying. Now the question we've got here, the big problem is, are these spirits? So come, soldiers. So advanced soldiers. Which soldiers does it mean? It must be spiritual soldiers. Originally, I thought this might have been ancestors of mine or something like that. But surely you're summoning the soldiers. They're not physical soldiers who turn up. They're spiritual guides. But there's no evidence of that whatsoever, except for logic, that you're on your own in the mountains and you don't really think that a load of soldiers from the local garrison are going to turn up and defeat some demons. Obviously, it's going to be your own spiritual soldiers. So that is the main speech for the Kuji, if you like. So I asked Lynn Hart to do it for me, and these are the 2 Chinese sentences. Those who will fight the opposing forces stand before me, or those who will fight the opposing forces advance before me. Okay? So if this was like Star Trek and we had a translator, the Kuji spell would be, come, soldiers, fight all men, form up and advance, go. So that's what you're listening to. So we're there. We'll do it one more time for you, just because I've got to read it off here. We're traveling, we're in the mountains, and we're thinking, this is dangerous. Right, I need some spiritual protection. Come, soldiers, fight all men, form up and advance, go. Because in Japanese it's Rin Hyo To Sha Kai Jin Retsu Zai Zen Aun. Yep. So that's what you would do in the mountains. Of course, in Chinese, I can't pronounce it, but Lynn Hart has already done that for you. Because of grammar, it can be difficult in Chinese and change it around. Let's have a look, and we move that all. So instead of come, soldiers, fight people all people, or is it all stand in formation? So fight all my enemies, or all of you stand in formation. Not quite sure. That would have to go for future reference. So let's try it in English with a slight reverse grammar. So come, soldiers, combat men, all form up and advance, go. So come, soldiers, combat men, all form up. No, I think I've lost it there. So basically, come, soldiers, combat men, all form up and advance. Yes, go. That's quite difficult in another language. So weirdly, I can do that in Japanese much faster and better than I can in English, but I've practiced that lots of times. So basically, when you're thinking of Kuji, that's all you're thinking about is a spell. It's a simple spell like, Lord, please help me. God, please help me. God, protect me. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. It doesn't mean I'm saying it's not very good or anything like that. What I'm saying is it's not as mystical as you think, or we've demystified the spell of protection in Catholicism. Jesus, help me. Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, help me. Yeah, all men, help me. Stand and fight for me. Yeah, it's very similar. Now, my name is Antony Cummins. I'm going to carry on a bit, but if you want to help me, you can buy me a coffee, which really does help because I don't have Patreon and I don't have memberships or all that. I've not had that yet, so please do it. Or if you would like to, you can get a copy, an advanced copy if you can, or a pre-order of my book Zen and the Samurai Sword. However, you can get the Book of Bushido, special on Audible, guys. If you like all this type of stuff, the I Ching's there. You can get my book on Yin Yang, The Art of War, the Book of Ninja. They're all there. Just go and find them on Amazon, all on Amazon. And of course, pre-orders really help. But let's do a quick timeline now. We're through the advice of Stephen Nojiri. I'm now going to give you a quick rundown of a conversation and timeline I've had with Stephen Nojiri, who runs Samurai Traditions of the Tada Genji. Please do go over and subscribe to his channel. He's got lots and lots of videos on there, so go over there, and this is what he has to say about the subject. Okay, so just a quick roundup, guys. We've got a problem. The ninja and samurai use Rin, Pyo, To, Sha, Kaijin, yeah, and they get all this Rin, Pyo, and all this sort of stuff, yeah, right, they do it all. And it's all mixed together, and this is the 1600s. The samurai are doing it, the medicine men, if you like, in Japan are doing it, everybody's doing it, and everybody says, this is really secret, don't tell anyone. Now, by this point, I hope you understand that the ninja did not invent this. I hope you can grasp that the ninja didn't do it. How the myth that the ninja invented this came about, I have no idea. It's ridiculous. And the fact that it goes back to 300 AD and the ninja don't, straight away tells you, you know, it isn't a ninja thing. And the fact that these mudras, mantras, and all this sort of stuff goes way back into Chinese and Indian and tradition. That's what I want to talk about today. So, how is it, or this is the root question. Where is this from? It's so hard. I thought I was just being stupid for many years. Like, how can I not find the histories? But you ask anyone and they struggle with the history of it. And what we find is that the different elements appear in different places. But you've got to remember, just because it's recorded somewhere doesn't mean it didn't exist outside the recording. But that doesn't mean you could just make something up. So, for example, there's almost no recordings of the ninja in the early 1500s. We only start to get them in the second half of the 1500s. So did they just not exist? Well, we assume they exist, but you can't just then make things up about them. We can logically trace back. This is the same with these. So what we find is something very interesting, is that the first example of Kuji, which is a Taoist text, which is the medicinal text about going in the mountains, which we've talked about, doesn't have the hand cuts, it doesn't have the mudras, it doesn't have anything, it's just the spell. So basically, come soldiers, all form up and advance, protect me, blah, blah, blah. That's the only thing he's said. So I haven't quite tracked down when is the first time that the cut comes into practice. That would be a very big project because you'd have to search every text in Japan and China for that type of thing, which hopefully, if you guys know, let me know. Where's the first time? And then the second question is, where's the first time that the mudras come into possession, that they're mixed together? Is it in India? Is it in China? Is it in Japan? We don't know. I don't know. And as far as I'm aware, people in general don't know. But if you know, let me know. So let's look at mudras. Now, mudras exist. So according to Stephen Nojiri's timeline, basically mudras exist right back into 2000 BC, right the way back, a couple of thousand years BC. They're there. You can see examples of mudras being used, even simple things like this, or simple things like this sort of thing, or being handed up there. We can find mudras going all the way back into prehistory, into statues and things like that. Of course, we'd have to go more detailed to find out exactly where they are, but that's his statement. They go back at least 1,000, 2,000 years into Indian culture. Right. Then, this is where it gets interesting. The Buddha is born. The Buddha does his stuff, yeah? And we know he's born into a land full of mudras and different things and a very magical world. The Buddha, we all imagine Buddhism as the very simplified version, almost like Zen at the end, and which it could have been originally. This is a statement, could have been originally, but there's also the highly magical. So let's imagine you're in the Hindu world, they're all there. Alexander the Great somewhere has been doing something. The Buddha arrives, and basically there's this complex snake worshipping cults, temples, a bit like Conan the Barbarian world, you know, with full Doom and everyone. And this Buddha arrives and he goes, no, something's wrong here. Bing! I'm going to rethink the way we do this. Now, this is the big question. Did he have all the magical skills and do all that? Or did he say, no, that's a load of nonsense, let's not do that? That is a big argument in Buddhism. But what we do know is the mudras are there. They exist. But then, Kuji is not. There's no record of it. But before Kuji, which is 300 AD, arrives on the historical record, we then get this, we then find that Buddhism, with its mantras and mudras and everything, has come into China. So around the year 0, roughly, when Christ is born, Indian monks are coming into China and Chinese monks going into India, and there's an exchange of information. And that exchange must have included mantras and mudras. But the first time, so Taoism is mixing with Buddhism here, and there's shamanism and all that sort of stuff. You've got to be careful here. Basically, folk religions are mixing. Before we get big organized religions, you have folk religions. And even back in the day of Buddhism, it's just a folk religion. It's just a few hundred people to start with doing its thing, and then it expands. But because you've got the history of Buddhism, you imagine that's Buddhist, and you're like, nope, it's the world of Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian is the world you're looking at when you're looking at ancient India. And in fact, Conan the Barbarian is pretty much based off the idea that there was one homogenized, not homogenized, that's the wrong word. It's one, not unified either, one culture mixed, many cultures mixed into one area. And the idea is Greek. How much did the Greek influence Buddhism? How much did Buddhism influence Greek? We find Buddhist statues in Viking hordes. Do you know what I mean? We have an east-west divide in this world, but actually it was a smeared divide. And while I can say that's Germanic and that is Indian, there is still the Indo-Europeans came down and all that, and there's still a massive melding there. And nobody likes to talk about that. But they exist in there, and the Indo-Europeans exist there. The beaker culture, the bell beaker culture, the Yamnaya culture, all those things are intermixing at different timelines. Even I can't get it right in my head, all the timelines and all that. They're all intermixing, and these things are being brought up, and Buddhism arrives on the scene. Okay? Tiny, tiny Buddhism. Then, years and years later, it's in China. And China is then starts speaking about Kuji. But then there's a gap in my knowledge that when we start seeing them being combined. So Stephen Ojiri is stating, is it possible that the mudras were brought over from India, and that even though people say the mudras are all Taoist, and because your first example of Kuji is Taoist, and then it becomes mudras somewhere, we don't know where, appear, and then the lines appear. Stephen is saying, is it possible that the mudras are there, they're just not written down, and they're tracing behind? This becomes one of those, it's possible, is it probable questions, and I don't have enough information. But I just wanted to share with you where we're up to and where we're going with the research of Kuji. It's not as important to me as I would like to say, because I deal with ninja, samurai, things like that, and as far as I'm aware, by the time they've just mixed it all in, and they're doing it, and that's their spell. So it doesn't really matter that much, as long as you're doing the ninja version of it, where it came from. But out of historical curiosity, I really, really, really do want to know. So, but it just takes a lot of research. So I'm going to put this end of this video out there for your help, guys, your help. Do we have any documentation? Please write down below, where is the earliest documentation of Kuji being used with the fingers and the mudras? Anyone out there who knows? Right, my name's Antony Cummins. As I say, there'll be links below, which will be to my new book, Zen and the Samurai Sword. If you're into this, you're into Kuji and Zen and everything, Zen and the Samurai Sword is definitely for you. It'll be on Audible, so you can get Audible, you can get the book machine on Audible, and I will leave a little bit of I'll leave the image at the end for you, which is buy me a coffee. But literally just take a picture of it and it'll say, would you like to donate? You can donate this much. Please do that. A few dollars here and there really helps me get like the books. Like I want to get that book on the medicine. It's £100 just to buy it secondhand because it's out of print, but it is. I'd like to get that and read through it for the entire thing. Okay guys, my name is Antony Cummins. I hope to see you in the future. Thank you to Stephen Ojiri, Lynn Hart, and all the different people that have helped me along on this journey of Kuji.